Hello, this is Talk Junkie. I'm Justin Perkins. Um, you know, it amazes me to see some of the things that people are able to do. Just some of the feats that people can perform, especially in the pursuit of exploration. There was a group of guys, I think six, who just rode 13 days through Drake Passage, from tip of South America down to Antarctica. It's an amazing endeavor. Did it need to be done? No, but there was that desire to one, I believe there's this desire to break a record. Two, there's this desire for adventure and exploration. And, that's something that's kind of indicative of human nature and is very well represented throughout our past. Between guys like Genghis Khan and the Roman Empire and this pursuit to conquer and take over far-reaching lands, I think that being a different thing. There's some real tyrants that did those types of things. Uh, Rulers like Xerxes who were extremely violent and vicious on the outer realms of their empires. But did they do this out of a sense of exploration or out of a sense of a desire to be dominant over other people and agreed to hold the most possessions? I think the latter is more likely for people like that. But even if you take them out of the equation from discovering, North America and South America, for the Spanish and the English, even the Nordic people, who reportedly were more than likely in North America and Canada before the English. This desire to cross oceans, to cross great land masses, looking at evolutionary records and looking at blood types and things over time, it's become fairly clear that a lot of Native Americans and even down into Native South Americans more than likely came from the Barren Land Bridge as a whole. We know the majority did, but as a whole, and that's where you get that connection from Asian lineage to Eskimo lineage to Native American lineage, and that desire to push forward. Now, sometimes, especially when you get that far back, it's more a matter of survival that pushes this migration or this travel than it is a sense of adventure. But the more a civilization comes into its own, and the more they get to the point to where they're able to be self-sufficient and have extra food, things of that nature, the more their desire to explore comes out of the desire for exploration instead of the need for migration. And that becomes very prevalent in civilizations. The more they advance and the more prosperous they become. America being probably one of the best examples of that. In all honesty, if we look at things rationally, there's absolutely no need, especially in the 50s going into the 60s. There's no need for the desire to go to the moon. I can't say it's not an evolutionary benefit. It very possibly may be, because the ability to always look forward and try to move and try to advance and try to get to new places very easily could be beneficial in the sense of an evolutionary standard. But as far as the point we were at as a culture and as a people, the need was not sufficiently important to our current state of affairs to go to somewhere like the moon. But yet there was this desire to do it. There was this need. And and it was a need really that gripped the nation. I was obviously not alive at that time, but you speak to people who were, even people very far removed from the area in which the rockets were going to launch from, and it collectively brought people together, and it seems to have had that type of impact globally in a lot of ways as well. So since then, from the probes we've sent out and the space station, we as a people, as humans, are exhibiting this desire to expand, to explore, and to move from where we are to a new place. This also seems to be very prevalent in everyday life. It's very prevalent in my life. I'm very proud to be from Eastern Kentucky. That's not always a stance that's taken. And there's things about Eastern Kentucky that I don't like. I think that's, anybody is that way about their home. But it's not the people. It's not the language, the dialect. It's not the history. We've done good and bad like all peoples. But I'm very proud of my home. And it would always be home. But my desire to be here is at zero. And that's not a reflection necessarily on Eastern Kentucky. That is a reflection upon myself. I've told many people, including my wife, if I had the thought of dying in Eastern Kentucky scares me. If that means I'm here from now until the day I die, then that scares me. And that's not a negative reflection upon my home. Because I would also sit and tell you, if you ask me, where do you want to live? I'm going to live everywhere. I have a wanderlust. I have a desire to move and be in different places. And I think that emotion generationally is different, depending upon your location. Economically is different, depending upon people's position and what they're able to do. I think geographically it's different. The desire for people in an isolated tribe in the Amazon who really don't even know of the outside world to explore and not necessarily to explore. It's hard to for someone like myself with no first-hand experience to really know their desire for exploration. But it's easy to understand that their desire to live in a different part of the world and to have a different existence is non-existent because they don't have the knowledge of those things. That's another part that makes a people and a civilization more prone to the desire for exploration is knowledge. The more knowledge we obtain, the more I think we desire new knowledge, and we desire exploration, and we desire to see the things that we've only been told about. And that's a lot of it with me. I want to experience. I've experienced other parts of Kentucky. I lived for a very brief time outside of Louisville, Kentucky, and went straight from there to living in Winchester, Kentucky, outside of Lexington, Kentucky. I lived there at a time in my life that wasn't necessarily beneficial for me to live there because the things that I would want to experience now and the things I would want to do now and the mindset that I have now did not exist then. I had chemical issues then, not even to that degree that I was just young. I liked to drink. I liked to do things that were not productive, and I wasted a good portion of that time, wasted almost all that time not being productive and not doing the things I would have liked to have done. But to come home and to raise my first child in Eastern Kentucky, that was the right thing for me to do up to a point, and I realized that up to a point. The thing about moving with the child is a lot of times that's very hard on the child, and my wife and I have always put that first. Now, that child is now 21, and she is very much like me in the fact that she doesn't... I I don't think she could live here full time. She's away now. She could live in Kentucky full time, but I don't think she could live in Eastern Kentucky full time because there's a desire there. Maybe it's something that subconsciously I put into her head and don't realize it, or it's something that just innate that she was born with. She's not my biological child, but she's very much like me, and I see that more as she gets older. But I think that desire for her is a desire to have a different experience than she's had, and at the root of things, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a different experience. I'm not looking for something that I feel is better than Eastern Kentucky. I'm looking for something that I feel is different than Eastern Kentucky. I value what I've had in Eastern Kentucky, but I look for something that's a different experience. We've lived a rural life, very rural, and people outside of this area, it's hard for you to sometimes understand the extent of how isolated that can be sometimes. On the same, well, I guess really on the opposite end of that, it's hard for people like that to come in and understand how connected an entire community can be when a community is that small. And you know, there's a lot of benefits, and I find people who have moved from other places to here, and I think a lot of times, well, they may not be satisfied with this. It's so different, so drastically different. But it seems to me a lot of people are searching for the life that I have, and so that's to cast no negative light on the life that I have. The life that I have is very good, and I'm very appreciative of it, and I think that's part of what keeps me from being kind of sad or depressed about not making this move or this exploration forward, is because I still have this very positive and happy association with what I do have. But people as a whole, as a collective, seem to want to branch out, and I think that's more noticed in larger cities. I myself, with a young child and stuff, because my son now is 9, and he's different than my daughter in a lot of ways, and one of those things is, I don't think, she at his age did not want to move, no desire whatsoever. I think that's just, home feels very comfortable for a young child, but with him, there's other circumstances and issues that affect him that she really didn't have to deal with, and to put him through that may be different than it would have been for her, and that plays a huge part in us moving. My wife also, as much as she likes to sit and entertain my thoughts of grandeur and travel and all this, I don't think she feels as comfortable with not being home. And there is a sense of discomfort and a sense of almost fear in some ways of not being home. And that also can be part of the attraction of the adventure and the exploration of going somewhere else. I believe that it really is a part of most people's makeup. And almost all people, they may shy from it and have the exact opposite reaction as myself, and others just flock to it. I find that many people from this area that leave come back. I think that's a good thing. I don't think that I would ever leave and not ever come back. For me to say the thoughts of dying in Eastern Kentucky scare me, it does, if that means there's no travel experience and exploration in between now and my death. But if I lived somewhere else and seen other places and done other things in the way I wanted, then the thought of dying anywhere other than Eastern Kentucky would deeply sadden me, because it has that important of a connection to me. Now that type of travel and exploration will not be right for everyone. It's not what everyone wants or needs to do, and that's very important to understand. To try to force that either way, to try to force people to stay or try to force people to leave, you won't get a good outcome from that. It's counterintuitive to the actual issue. The actual issue is allowing people to make that decision and to search for what's right for them. I myself want the experience of other places. I would like to be very nomadic in life, and that's something that, due to the way that my son kind of reacts to things, that's something that may have to come later on in life for me, but it may be something that he desires as well as he grows older. So I never eliminate the possibility of those things, of those options. It's always there. It's always an option that, we don't know if we got tomorrow, but if we do, that seems to be when I'll have to do it, when I will have to move out and move forward. I wonder how similar my desire to simply just live in another place is to the desire of nomadic tribes to move across large expanses of space for food, shelter, and better living environments. I know those things seem very different, and it's absurd to put a value of difficulty on my life that would be relevant to the amount of difficulty a group of people like that would have to experience. That's not what I'm saying. If certain people in those conditions were presented with good home lands, good hunting, all these things, how long could they stay? How long could they stay tethered? Not as a community, because communities represent a whole, and a whole of people are often influenced by those around them, limited by those around them, and restricted by those around them. But as individuals go, would individuals still seek something else? Well, we obviously know that that's true. We know that that's true in the sense of this big age of exploration that we hit before America was founded, which resulted in the formation of the United States. For those people to make the effort to the Spanish to explore places like South America, there's different elements in that. Especially with that initial exploration, greed plays a big part in that. Plays a big part in it on the part of kings and countries financing these trips, and explorers coming through. They were looking for fortune. We glorify that too often in the name of exploration, but the same was true with the exploration and found in the United States and the consequences that come from that, especially for the native peoples of North America. But greed played a huge part in that. But once you get past those initial peoples, and you get into the actual people who come after, you understand that those initial exploration has to have some desire to be there, just the desire to explore, but also there generally is a greed and a negative connotation that comes with that. But a lot of times, the peoples that follow, for example, with the United States, you take the Puritans who followed, they were trying to escape religious persecution, but they also were looking for something of their own, something new. There was a sense and a desire for exploration, and they came here with that sense. I think that's very true in a lot of cases, but they were the direct result of a group of people who had explored something never seen, never touched by them, and so that bred into a little interest and a little desire for exploration and this desire for freedom that got a little bit bigger. But once you get into the United States, once you get these people here and they get established, the desire to go west to me is one of the truest examples of a desire for challenge, a desire for exploration, and a desire to just do something different and something new. The negatives on making that trip were immense. The risk was huge. The reward was moderate, and in a way non-existent, because you had no idea what you were going to find, what you were actually going to get. You could go on hearsay, you could go on what's been told to you, but as an Eastern citizen going west who had never been outside of, more than likely, New England for a lot of those in the earlier days, you're going on the hearsay that you've heard. You're going on the tales of explorations before you. You're going on a hunch. You're going on a whim. You're going on a desire for exploration. It seems to be an innate human quality. It seems to be something within all of us. It's something I value greatly. I want to travel, see, do, experience new things. There's times fears restrict that. There's definitely time financial ability restricts that. There's times that making a good, responsible choice restricts that, and it just is. There's nothing you can do about that. It's a common thing, and sometimes you have to abide by that, and then sometimes you just have to defy it. But I feel that desire for exploration, and it's hard for me to believe or think that is not overly common and abundant amongst my fellow man, to desire and want to see and experience different places, peoples, and things. As I grow older, that desire becomes more prevalent. This could just be me. If you're a person that's never ever wanted to do that, send me an email. If you're a person that has, send me an email. But interact with the show. There's been a lot of interaction lately. I really appreciate that. I like these little quick mini casts. This one's a little longer than they usually are. They usually run around 18 minutes. This one's a little bit over. I've got a big episode coming up that I really enjoyed researching. So it should be up hopefully in the next day or so. But thanks for listening. Author J. Perkins on Facebook. You can message me through there or look for information. I don't actually get on there unless it's an absolute need-to situation. I am on Instagram and Twitter. One of those is at JPerk213, and the other one is Author J. Perkins, I believe. If you want to email me, it's authorjperk@gmail.com. Don't forget the YouTube page, J. Perkins. I really want to get numbers up on that and try to get that thing going. So share those videos, try to get people to subscribe and like. I don't do much advertising anymore, so especially with Facebook, which seemed to get the most response, I'm just not on there anymore. But thanks for listening. You guys have a great day.